What's up, everyone, and a huge welcome back to the Questions and Reactions YouTube channel. I'm so glad to be with you all today. This is going to be my first episode of 2025, and I hope you all enjoyed the episode. If this is your first time on this channel, thank you so much for clicking on the video. I really hope you enjoy what we have on this channel. Now, you should know that if you need any psychological or medical help, please do seek out to a professional, as the information that I provide here is entirely based on research and a lot of sources all over the web and asking people as well. So it's important that if you do need some medical attention or help, please seek the help of a professional. Now, what are we going to be discussing about today? We're talking about main character syndrome. Now, if you're not familiar with the term main character syndrome, that's entirely fine. We're going to learn a lot about it today. I had to learn a lot about it myself as well to prepare for this video. So with that said, let's begin. Now, what is main character syndrome? Now, if you're not familiar with the term, it's kind of like a social phenomenon, and it became a big thing, especially when social media, was out there, and it's been proven that it's really primarily the cause of main character syndrome. So basically, if you have seen people who are obsessively obsessed with how they are viewed on social media, they make posts and they want to respond to every comment. They want to build like a narrative and expect everyone to act based on the narrative that they have built of themselves on social media. But we do know that in the real world, if you want to have interactions and good relationships with people, it's a give and take kind of situation. So in the sense that when you do things, either in your family, in your work, or in your relationships, you get feedback from people. And it's based on this feedback that you can either use to improve yourself in that situation, or make the situation in general good. So in a real world sense, when someone applies something, like when someone has main character syndrome, it usually stems from feelings of insecurities, feelings of inadequacies, and this is particularly common with people who may have anxious attachment styles. I've never discussed attachment styles on this channel. It's like a whole different rabbit hole and topic in itself. But with that said, generally people who tend to have like anxious attachment issues either probably grew up in a childhood where they weren't being heard enough, and so when they get into adulthood, it affects their relationships with people, and they have this need or this desire and this obsession for everyone to know what is going on around them, and it's not entirely bad to interact with people and let them know what goes on in your life. However, there should be a fine line, because we know that sometimes if you give a lot of information too much, it can lead to oversharing. And what happens with oversharing is sometimes you give information that you shouldn't even be giving out there, just because you want to get attention and you want to build this narrative about yourself to other people. So that's why generally, like, we need to be very, very careful, especially when it comes to oversharing. Now, generally, a person that has main character syndrome might display one, if not all, of these symptoms. One of them is a lack of empathy. Secondly is delusions. And thirdly, it is a resistance to constructive criticism. Now, in the aspect of lack of empathy, what happens there is, because you have this narrative of always wanting people to know what is going on in your life, but you don't have the interest to get information or learn more about other people, or empathize with other people. What happens there is it can significantly ruin your relationships with others, because no one just wants to talk about you about anything, because they feel that they're in this situation where whenever they tell you something, it now turns out to be a situation of, oh, it's me all the time, when in reality they weren't even speaking about you in the first place. And sometimes this shows itself in some of the most petty ways. So if you're familiar with the term Karen, right? Now, most people know what the term Karen is. For personal reasons, I'm not going to define it on this channel. If you don't know what a Karen means, by all means, just check the internet. But anyways, generally, there are certain people that if something is not their way, they have a problem with it. And really, it shouldn't even be a problem in the first place. Like, if you went somewhere and maybe you didn't see things or resources to accommodate your needs there's a way to politely express that opinion without being rude or insensitive about it. Not the world doesn't revolve around you. Even people who work in some of the most complex industries, they take feedback from people, and that is how they grow, because that's how the world grows in general. You need to take correction from people. So someone who has main character syndrome doesn't like correction from people. And like I mentioned earlier, they can also be delusional. So because of that narrative that they've created, they want everyone to believe in that box that they've created about themselves. And then when people don't believe what they're saying, or when people don't pay attention to what they're saying, they become very, very arrogant about it, or they begin to show resentment towards others. So at the end of the day, it is important to be self-confident, which can be a strength of having main character syndrome. You can be self-confident, out there, and you can even rechannel that energy to achieve your goals at the end of the day. But you can use that to your advantage and still maintain a good relationship with people. You would be known as, since you want to be known as that person who probably has their finances or their academics in order or their life in order, then rechannel that main character energy to fix those relationships, fix those aspects of your life, and then you would be seen as that person. Now, the question is it possible to reverse main character syndrome? Yes, it is possible. If you want to reverse main character syndrome, it's very, very possible. And how do you go about this? It's little steps. And what do I mean by little steps? Like, in your interactions every day, you need to show concern for people. You need to show that you care about them, and you need to take little actions in order to improve your relationships with others. It can start with something as small as asking someone, how was your day? How are things with you? How's the family? Just be genuinely curious about, people. And you don't have to do it all the time. It might be just on 2 occasions that you do it in a day. And then when these actions pile up, it tends to improve your relationship with other people. Now, speaking of characters and personalities, I am so glad to introduce you all to Pogue. Now, if you don't know what Pogue is an Irish-owned jewelry brand that celebrates love and friendships. Now, with International Women's Day around the corner, you might want to buy something for a woman that is dear to you. Maybe your mother or your sister or a partner. So head over to lovepog.com and you can find really beautiful pieces and jewelry that I'm sure that your loved one would really, really like at the end of the day. So head over to lovepog.com, that is lovepog.com, and you can thank me later. Now back to the video. I was saying how you can reverse main character syndrome, and basically it's just by doing little activities for people. And yeah, definitely when you start to show interest in your community, people will pay more attention to you. And it doesn't have to be all the time they pay attention to you. See, life is a give and take. Life is about give people love, give people concern, give people attention, and they will give it back to you. Don't do it to expect something back from them. No, just do it because it should come out of your heart, because at the end of the day, giving is even a good thing. Like, it makes you feel good to give things to other people. So at the end of the day, we need to gather ourselves together and realize that life doesn't necessarily revolve around perceptions or how we decorate ourselves. It's not about me all the time. It's about showing concern, showing love, and showing importance for others in your life in order to get the best results out of them. Now, with that said, we have now come to the end of the video. Thank you so much if you stayed till the end of the video, and I look forward to you watching our next episode. Now, make sure to share the video, comment if there's anything you want me to talk about in the next episode, and subscribe to the channel. Share this with a friend. And until then, thank you so much, and see you all in the next episode.